It's kind of crazy when you think about how censorship dictated what movies you could even see back then. Some of these westerns would barely raise an eyebrow today, but back in the day, censors absolutely freaked out. A producer apparently vomited during the first screening of one of these movies, and people at another movie literally started yelling, "Burn the theater." These 10 westerns drove censors so crazy that even now, some still can't be seen in their original form today. This spaghetti western might be the nastiest, most relentlessly violent western ever filmed. You've got a sergeant transporting a chain gang of dangerous convicts through the mountains. They get attacked, leaving only the sergeant, his daughter, and these 7 psychopath prisoners. From there, it's non-stop brutality. Assault, cannibalism hints, men getting their guts sliced open in graphic close-ups, brains splattered everywhere, and even a close-up of a burnt corpse. There's this notorious gold extraction scene. Someone dismembered to recover gold they swallowed, completely cut out of early American releases. Originally, it wasn't even supposed to be this gory, but the producer pushed director to reshoot some scenes to crank up the gore factor. Early American distributors saw the chain gang brutality and refused to even release it without massive cuts. One exec straight up called it a horror film, not a western. The director wouldn't budge, so the movie barely played in the States, mostly super-edited versions in grindhouse theaters. This one's infamous for being basically the most violent western of its era. It's based on the real-life Sand Creek Massacre, and it totally flips the script. This time, the U.S. cavalry are the villains, slaughtering Cheyenne villagers in graphic, shocking detail. You've got scalpings, beheadings, children gunned down. No wonder people completely lost it. At an early screening, viewers literally started yelling "Burn the theater" during the brutal 20-minute massacre sequence. The MPAA freaked out, forced massive cuts to even give it an R rating. The British censors were even tougher. They chopped out almost 7 whole minutes of the ending. When it aired on British TV in 1980, they cut out the massacre completely, calling it too horrific. Didn't even air uncut there for another 22 years. Despite all that, it made good money, over $8 million off a $3.5 million budget, and earned a lasting reputation as the most savage film in history. One of those lost films that only shows up on cable once in a while, this is basically Hollywood's answer to Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch, an insanely violent revenge western starring Gene Hackman, Oliver Reed, and Candice Bergen, who actually made Soldier Blue just 1 year earlier. Hackman plays a rancher who thinks Reed kidnapped his wife, and he goes completely insane trying to hunt him down. We're talking torture, dismemberment, even a scene where a character literally gets forced to eat his own fingers. Producer Helmut Dantine reportedly threw up at the first screening. It was so extreme. Director Don Medford refused studio requests to tone down the violence, arguing the frontier wasn't polite. People died horribly, but United Artists still demanded cuts, especially a graphic scene where Candice Bergen's character gets assaulted. Medford reluctantly trimmed it, still ended up with a hard R rating, and some theaters flat out refused to show it. Burt Lancaster plays an aging scout tracking a group of Apache warriors, and director Robert Aldrich pulls 0 punches. Settlers get tortured graphically, and the cavalry dishes out brutality just as bad. There's one scene, an attack on a homesteader's wife, that test audiences literally walked out on, so United Artists demanded cuts. Even after trimming, it shocked audiences in 1972, and British censors initially rejected it outright, said it went way beyond acceptable limits. Critics did recognize it as a brilliant, uncompromising film, but most people weren't ready for something that relentlessly harsh. The fully uncut version vanished completely until 2018, when it finally resurfaced and totally stunned festival audiences. Quentin Tarantino named it his absolute favorite Western of the 1970s, praising how Aldrich combined Western and war film brutality. But yeah, fair warning, it's absolutely not for anyone squeamish about violence either towards people or animals. This one was originally called A Town Called Bastard, but American distributors thought that title would offend too many people and ruin ticket sales, so they changed it. It opens with a ruthless Mexican outlaw massacring an entire village. 10 years later, a mysterious woman shows up offering a huge reward for whoever kills that outlaw. The movie stars Robert Shaw and Telly Savalas, and director Robert Parrish just went completely all in. Mass executions, scenes of priests being brutally killed, church desecrations. Censors completely freaked out, especially British ones. They demanded tons of cuts. American censors were even harsher, slicing out almost 14 minutes. Parrish was furious, felt they destroyed the movie's political message and symbolism, and the chopped-up American version made zero sense, so naturally, critics trashed it. For decades, the full version basically disappeared. It wasn't until 2018 that we finally saw Parrish's original vision. This is a Western about a kid who dreams about cowboy life and convinces a trail boss to let him join their cattle drive. But instead of some romantic cowboy adventure, what he gets is a brutal dose of reality. Director Dick Richards deliberately made it as gritty and unromanticized as possible, super realistic violence. Studio execs at 20th Century Fox could barely believe Richards even sent them something this graphic. Censors demanded heavy cuts, especially this one scene where a guy gets his face literally blown off at dinner. Richards didn't want to trim it, but eventually he had no choice. Even after cuts, it still got an R rating. Budget was small, just under $1 million, but it made around $4 million. Pretty good for a gritty Western with no big stars. Sergio Leone's revolutionary epic got absolutely butchered by American censors, so badly Leone himself said it was basically a different movie. The story's about an Irish explosives guy and a Mexican bandit caught up in a bloody revolution, so naturally lots of firing squads, mass graves, executions. United Artists executives couldn't handle it. One flashback showing soldiers hanging villagers and massacring families was completely cut from American versions. Another powerful sequence, Rod Steiger's character discovering his children murdered, was chopped to pieces. Leone was furious, famously saying, "They keep the explosions but remove the reasons for them." Film cost about $5 million, and the butchered US release barely made $4 million, but in Europe, where Leone's full version was shown, it made over $20 million. That original, complete 157-minute cut wasn't even available in America until decades later. This one's about Charles Bronson as Chato, a half-Apache who kills a racist sheriff in self-defense and then gets hunted down by a posse. The posse spirals deeper into savagery, climaxing in a horrific scene where they assault a Native American woman. Studio execs at United Artists were totally disturbed, demanded the director Michael Winner change it drastically. Winner pushed back hard, saying, "This is what actually happened on the frontier. Americans just can't face their own history." Studio threatened to shelf the film, though, so he eventually had to compromise. Even after edits, it still shocked viewers who were expecting a classic Western. Surprisingly, it did pretty well. Budget was around $1.5 million, made almost $6 million worldwide. Critics were split right down the middle. Some thought it was exploitative garbage, others praised how honestly it dealt with racism and violence. Bronson himself later called Chato the most honest role I ever played. This movie is seriously nasty, even by 70s standards. It's about a woman who seeks revenge after being brutally attacked by a gang of outlaws. Michelle Carey stars as an innocent young schoolteacher traveling by stagecoach, which gets stopped by an outlaw gang led by Keenan Wynn. They shoot basically everyone else on board, kidnap Carey, and subject her to genuinely horrific abuse. Even watching it today, the whole thing's just incredibly uncomfortable. Henry Silva plays a rare good guy role, an Apache named Chato, who rescues her, helps her recover, and mentors her on her revenge mission. The weirdest thing here is why established actors like Wynn and Silva even agreed to this. Wynn especially seems to be almost enjoying playing such a nasty villain. It's seriously uncomfortable stuff. No surprise censors lost their minds over it.